Good morning, folks. Welcome to the Rangers Reviews morning briefing on this Tuesday morning. It's a rather damp day in Glasgow for me, Derek. I don't know what the climate is like down there.
Yeah, similar here in Warrington.
Similar. Yeah, drab. We're getting into the clocks are almost going back. The football gets through. We're going to speak about Alfredo Morelos today, Derek. We're going to speak about a little bit looking back at the St Mirren game. We'll maybe touch on the visit of Aberdeen to Ibrox as well tomorrow, which you'll be heading along to. Remember, folks, as well, if you're watching on YouTube, to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, I believe, so you know that we are always going live. And yes, you can keep up to date with all our videos. Right, Derek, let's talk about your working day yesterday, which was arguably your favourite in all your years. You had the pleasure of going through Alfredo Morelos' 100 goals for Rangers. You've picked out top 10. Give me some highlights.
Yeah, it was a hard graft yesterday, that's for sure, Joshua. I watched these 100 goals and I whittled it down to a sort of top 10. It was difficult, I have to say, but I got there in the end, and I'm sure most people would agree. Some notable admissions, I think the goal against Rapid Vienna, had to omit, although it was an absolute beauty. I think it was more remembered so for Daniel Candace's back heel, but that was a goal that just slightly missed the cut. The first Feyenoord header missed it, but the second one's in there. Absolutely world-class header. And my top three, I think I've got... I'm just trying to think what I've actually got in my top three. I think I've got his header against Feyenoord, his goal at Pittodrie against Aberdeen in 2018, I think it was, or 2019.
Early 2019, was it not? Yeah. February 2019,
when he took it in with his right foot and side-footed into the corner with his left, and then I've got his top goal, the one against Porto at Ibrox, when he pulled the ball, sort of controlled it with his left foot and volleyed it into the corner. For me, that was the one that sort of just head and shoulders, just the edges it for me, I think, is a top goal. But there was plenty of brilliant strikes and lots of headers as well. You forget how many headers he scores. He's so good in the air, Alfredo Morelos. So many headers. And as Steven Gerrard said after the game on Sunday, it's all about setting the next target and hopefully can score a lot more goals for the club. What's yours, Joshua?
Well, I've been musing over this morning, and do get in touch, folks, with an agreement or disagreement on both the order and selection of both of our top Alfredo Morelos goals. For me, Morelos isn't, and I'd imagine you found this out as you went through his goals. A lot of them probably don't have the most delicate touch to them. I'm thinking about the Alishkirk goal this season as an example of a one-on-one finish where he smashes it through the goalkeeper's legs. So I've tried to balance significance with moment and all that. For me, the first goal against Rapid Vienna isn't necessarily one of his best, but I think it's one of the biggest of the Gerrard era, because if you remember that game, Rangers had started really well, but Rapid Vienna went ahead with an offside goal. Yeah. And Rangers responded within 5 minutes, and that game being at Ibrox was just it was one of the first big European nights back, and Morelos that was kind of almost his announcing, I guess, to the Europa League, in a sense, to European competition in the group stage. So for me, that was a significant goal for him and for Rangers. I think both goals against Celtic this season coincided with the kind of monkey coming off his back, and especially the second one, the nutmeg on Scott Brown in the finish was emblematic of Rangers' dominance last season and of the changing tides. He's had hard moments against Celtic. Morelos, he was there obviously before Gerrard in some humbling defeats. So so that one for me. And then finally, technically, I think the second header in Feyenoord is arguably the best. And both of those goals, again, that game. That Europa League campaign, I think he was a top scorer. I don't know if the end, but certainly up until a point. Both goals against Porto are fantastic. For me, the two headers in Feyenoord, that was Morelos at just his highest level, because as a goal scorer, because he could score literally all types of goals. And the Porto goal is a great example of, you look at a couple of the chances he had against Hearts. He would have never scored that Porto goal in that night because it's instinctive. And I think he's quite like Tavernier in some senses, in the sense of, I think Tavernier really plays better on instinct when there's a little bit less pressure on him. I think he plays within himself sometimes. You can tell he's doing that when he takes too many touches. Morelos' home goal against Porto was wonderful, but I think for me, Feyenoord away, those two headers were kind of wow moments in terms of the move leading up to the goal, the cohesion of the team, but the ability of him to get his neck around both those balls and score. And that was just him at his very, very best. The tail end of 2019 before the start of 2020, which we won't delve too much into. Notable inclusions, Derek, are he loves a goal against Hibs.
Yes.
Doesn't he? Because early on, his first goal, obviously, 2 minutes at home in a 3-2 defeat, but also that goal that's in your list against Hibs away, that was a kind of vintage Morelos of signs of things to come, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've got two goals against Hibs in there. The one where he just turns handling inside out before rifling past Marciano, and the one last season, which was an absolutely terrific team goal and what was a horrendous pitch when he sort of started to move on the sort of right hand side and played a little nice ball into Jack. He played the ball to Davis, little flick to Aribo, and then he flicked it back onto Morelos. Porteous was nowhere to be seen, and he just simply smashed the ball into the back of the net. An absolute beautiful goal. There's also a notable mention for the goal at Ross County when he slid in on Scott Fox, and he just dallied on the ball, and then he nipped in, took the ball off him, and put it into the back of the net. So I've got it on the website just now, folks. You can go and have a look at that, and I'm sure you'll agree with some and not agree with others. But that's the beauty of Alfredo Morelos and hitting 100 goals. There's so many different types of goals in there, and different games. You mentioned the importance of games and all that sort of stuff, Joshua. So that there's European goals in there, there's domestic goals, a goal against Celtic's in there, the one at Ibrox, like you say, when he megged Scott Brown and fired into the roof of the net. And looking at the XG, that goal was 0.06 as well. So you don't realise the difficulty as well when he smashed it in. So plenty of variation. So go and check it out if you get a chance.
Final word on Morelos for me, Derek, is what I should have put in is the left-footed goal against Aberdeen in that first season, the one that I think is third in your list. That alongside what was the two goals in January of this year, one of those two, I can't remember which one. Again, loves a goal at Pittodrie. But the first one in that 4-2 win, and it's the win where Defoe comes on and scores late. Tavernier scores a penalty, and someone else opened to score, I think. Yeah,
I think the one you're thinking about is, I think Tavernier started off the move on the right-hand side, and he played it sort of square to Kent, and Kent found Morelos. I think he had his back to goal, and he just spun and fired into the corner. But he's so good at watching the goals. He's so good at firing shots in from crazy angles and getting it past the goalkeeper. The one at there was one at Livingston where he sort of the angle was so acute that it just defies belief, really. But he scored a number of those sort of goals. So great technique.
And it was interesting. I watched a good chunk of the video that Rangers TV put up, and it's interesting as well. You see the kind of the evolution of Rangers under Gerrard as it goes through. You see, with the 4-2 win up in Aberdeen, that was one of the first games where Kent really, as an inside forward, was one of the best players in the game. And it was his shot that led to Morelos' first goal on his left foot. And you can go right through that season on season, the development of the left wide triangle with Barisic, Kent and Kamara leading to the goals in Feyenoord. It's a great watch, and I think everyone is obviously delighted for Morelos to get 100 goals and hopes that now it will provoke something of his best goal scoring form for the remainder of the season, Derek, and we shall see. I thought up front with Kemar Roof, he looked really good in points against St Mirren. I think the whole team, as we know, didn't cover themselves in glory at the very start. But I think what he offers with you up there is such variation in how you play in terms of him and Roof can occupy both defenders deep. Either one of them is comfortable dropping deep to to progress the ball. So if you look at the goal, Morelos' goal, often at home at Ibrox, it'd be Roof that stays and keeps the depth offensively. Like his first goal against Hibs a few weeks back. So so lots of good signs, and as we say, I think all the support will be very mindful and hopeful that he can maintain that form. Right, let's touch on a couple more articles on the website, Derek. One thing that I had up yesterday was a piece looking at tactical variation against St Mirren, and that's something that we've spoken a lot about on the website since the summer. Gerard obviously spoke about it, and there's been a lot of discussion about what that means. Within what context? Does it mean a new formation? Does it not mean that at all? Does it mean an adaptation of the principles that Rangers play with? I thought Derek on Sunday, is it Sunday? Yeah, Sunday. It was an excellent example of what Gerard spoke about in pre-season. And if you remember his comments, what Gerard said was, I need to have the ability to adapt in games. Some managers will become wise to this system, etc. And that is literally exactly what happens, because Goodwin's team was set up to press as if Rangers had a flat three-man midfield with Lundstrom going high. And when Lundstrom came deep, that variation changed the game. For me, Derek, that is a real win for the coaching staff, but a real vindication of Gerard's comments in pre-season about the need to not always have this flat three-man midfield. And I think often now you really don't see it domestically, and that makes Rangers so much harder to play against for opponents, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And there comes a point when teams, if you play the same way, that they'll figure you out. We all remember Mark Warburton when he was in charge, and the whole make plan A better as opposed to having a plan B. So it's vital that these sort of in-game tactical decisions are made to try and get a positive outcome. So it's clear that the likes of Michael Beale, Stephen Gerrard, Gary Mackin, Tom Culshaw are looking at that in ways of defeating the opposition. We've seen it against St Mirren, of course, that helped them go on and win the game. And it's vital to keep teams guessing. Of course, the majority of games Rangers will come up against domestically, teams will just sit in, and it's very much the low block, and it's up to Rangers to try and force the issue and get the win. So it's important that they have different ways of playing, and the players are accustomed to that, and they know they can play different styles, and it's not too alien for them. So it's great to see, and it's good bodes well for going forward as well. Because I remember speaking to Colin Hendry recently. He says this season it'll be even tougher for Rangers to win, because they are up there at the top. They are there to be got at, and it's difficult teams. I mean, it was every team's cup final anyway, but it's even more so now. They try and beat the champions, so it's important that Rangers have that in their arsenal to go in different ways and ways of playing against teams to keep them guessing. So but it's good to see.
I also want to talk about Borna Barisic, Derek, because I think over the last week there's been a lot of optimism. The team's pressure numbers off the ball, their aggression off the ball has been much, much improved, and in my opinion, that's definitely given a platform to go on and have what was 3 encouraging performances. Hearts' late goal aside, but one player I think that still looks like he's still in that rut almost is Barisic. Think back to the back pass against Bromby, which was he was almost Flanagan-esque. I think it was against Villarreal, was it, that Flanagan played that horrendous ball behind your world. And at the weekend again, I thought he wasn't. It's not like he's playing terribly and hurting the defence with his performances. But you notice it a lot, especially sitting behind the manager, how often Gerard's kind of encouraging him to get tighter to his man, especially when he's up against a wing back. That's something that I think, if you think back to Malmo away, way back in August or July, no, August, that's something that I think Barisic struggles with when he's not at his best form. I thought going forward, duel-wise, it's just it's not quite there, and I don't know whether that is a product of Kent being out and Kamara not playing. Because Barisic, with them, you think back to those Feyenoord goals, the assist for Kent at Celtic Park, just off the top of my head, the precision he can pick people out with is just top drawer. But I think it's important for Rangers that he manages to rediscover some of his attacking output, even in terms of one-on-one, because that will that'll obviously aid the team. In saying that, I did think that the plan, obviously, with the setup against Bromby was for Tavernier and Aribo to be the route forward, especially with Roof coming off the left, but then playing up front. So Barisic was kind of retaining width, if you like. What have you made of his performances the last week or so, and obviously the season before that, Derek?
Yeah, I'm just seeing a comment come in from the gallant Pioneer. Says Barisic lets crosses come in, stands too far off his man at times. Yeah, I would agree with that. We all know he's had that disrupted pre-season. All stemmed. He was injured, of course, for the Euros. It restricted him to a cameo against Scotland, and he's sort of struggled since then. He's been back to his best in flashes, but we've not seen him at his vintage best. And I'm not too sure if we will see that before. I know there's a break in January. Perhaps we need to wait until after that and get him sort of recharged, if you like. I know he's away with Croatia again with the national team coming up. I think he just had to sort of play his way into form, if you know what I mean. It's just, I'm not too sure what it is with him, if it's he's carrying that little niggle or psychologically he's playing within himself. But yeah, he's not been at his best. And touching on the Morelos conversation we had just recently, a lot of the goals that he scored have come from Barisic deliveries. The Feyenoord one, the one against Porto, terrific whipped in balls, and we've not really seen that as much this season. So Steven Gerrard will be itching for him to get back to his best as well. I mean, he's still a quality player, there's no doubt about it, but we all know he's capable of so much more. Calvin Bassey has come in at times this season and done well, but it's not like on the other side of the pitch where if you take out James Tavernier, you've got a Molan-ready replacement on that right-hand side. There is a drop-off between Barisic and Bassey, there's no doubt about it, but yeah, he's for one reason or another, he'll say himself that he's just not been quite on it this season, but a lot of the players haven't. I mean, it's been a stop-start season so far for them. We know, of course, with the COVID outbreak and Steven Gerrard not having his full squad at his disposal. So it's been difficult, not just for him. So I think it's just one of those ones where you just need to get the head down and graft away, and hopefully form will come. But I think last season, I mean, I know Steven Gerrard mentioned it before, it's unfair to compare last season to this season. That's gone, and I think it's just, it was very much a one-off. It was a very special season last year that I very much doubt will be replicated in the near future or at any point in years to come. So it's all about Barisic now, just trying to do his best to make sure he's doing his utmost for the team and not playing hospital balls like we've seen against the other night.
Yeah, it was not a good ball back. Okay. Right, well, I think that's, firstly, before we close up there, I think there's a valid point about his niggling injuries, which obviously kept him kind of out of the Euros in the summer, and obviously we don't get to see the goings on in that side, so I'm sure that's a contributing factor in his kind of stop-start season so far, as you say. That'll do us for today, folks. Remember, you can subscribe for just £1 a month. Today we've got 2 excellent articles up already. We've got a long read by Martin Ramsey on Graham Souness's first Rangers trophy, I believe, coming up very, very soon on the website today as well. Subscribe for just £1 a month over on the Rangers Review website. We'll be back tomorrow morning looking ahead to Aberdeen at home, which Derek will be in attendance for. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and we will speak to you at 9:30 tomorrow morning.